Is Hollywood starting to embrace modest fashion? I've been noticing something. Have you been noticing it? And once you see it, you really just cannot unsee it. It feels like Hollywood and fashion in general is slowly shifting towards a more modest way of dressing. Do you see it? We're seeing more higher necklines, covered shoulders, longer hemlines on some of the most stylish women out there right now. And it's not just one person. It's not just one red carpet moment. It's happening across different celebrities, different styles, and different events. But here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't actually something new, because there are women who have always dressed this way. But now I think the rest of the fashion is starting to look more like them. So if that's something that you're interested in hearing about my thoughts on what's really going on here, I'd love for you guys to stick around and watch. Welcome back to our channel. This is Kosher Casual, and if you're new here, then welcome. Here we talk all things modest, from fashion to values, and how to bring that into your everyday life in a way that actually feels modern. If that's something you're into, then maybe you would consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification so you wouldn't miss any of our uploads. So what is actually happening here? I want to start by breaking this down, because this shift is subtle. It's not like suddenly everyone just woke up one morning and decided to dress modestly. It's happening in small ways, in small details, in small proportions. And that's exactly why it's just so easy to miss, unless you're really paying attention. If you think about fashion before, like tons of skin, low plunging necklines, shorter hemlines, more emphasis on exposing the body. Now compare that to what we're seeing more of today. Longer sleeves, midi and maxi length, more structure. I think what's happening here is fashion is becoming less about revealing and more about refining. And that shift, it's quiet, but it's powerful. This isn't new. Princess Diana, if we go back for a moment, this idea isn't new. Princess Diana was already dressing this way. When you look at her style, nothing was overly revealing, but everything felt powerful. She wore high necklines, structured silhouettes, midi length, and what stood out wasn't exposure, it was her presence, it was intention, and I think that's important. What we're seeing now isn't a completely new direction, it's more of a return. Kate Middleton. Now, she is bringing it today. Kate is probably one of the clearest examples of modern modest dressing. But what's important to understand is she hasn't changed. Her style has always been consistent. Closed necklines, sleeves, below the knee hemlines. That's always been her look. Has anything changed? Is everything around her changing? Because now when you look at fashion more broadly, you start to see elements of her style appearing everywhere. And that's what makes this so interesting. It's not that she's following a trend, it's that the trend is starting to look more like her. That shift says a lot about where fashion is going. About Rachel Weisz, timeless elegance. Rachel Weisz, she brings a completely different energy to this conversation. She's also not trend driven, but if anything, her style feels completely outside of trends. And that's what makes it so interesting, because when you look at her outfits, you'll notice she's also fully covered silhouette, long sleeves, higher necklines, clean structured lines. Nothing feels excessive. Nothing feels like she's trying too hard. And yet it always looks elevated. There's a quiet confidence in the way she dresses. It's what people now call quiet luxury. But really, it's just timeless style. How about Mayim Bialik? She's intentional modesty. She brings yet another perspective into this conversation because her modesty isn't trending driven at all. It's intentional, it's value based, and it's consistent. When you look at how she dresses, higher necklines, longer hemlines, more coverage overall, but the difference with her is she's not doing it because it's fashionable. She's doing it because it aligns with who she is and what she believes. And I think that adds another layer here. It shows that modest fashion isn't just a trend or a phase. For some people, it's a choice. So now as fashion shifts, this kind of dressing feels more visible, more understood, more acceptable. How about Adele? Now this is where it gets really interesting. When you think of singers, you don't really think about modest fashion, right? But Adele completely shifts that expectation. She is almost always fully covered. Long sleeves, higher necklines, but she commands attention. She doesn't disappear. And she stands out even more because when nothing is distracting, you notice everything that matters, which her voice, her presence, her confidence. And I guess you didn't think that I was going to say Taylor Swift on this list, but she brings a softer version of this, more feminine, more delicate, but still very intentional. You see higher necklines on her, long sleeves, midi length, and it creates a look that feels balanced and put together. Not heavy, not restrictive, just refined. So transition, what's this all mean? When you look at all of this together, from say Princess Diana to Kate, to Rachel, to Mayanne, to Adele and Taylor Swift, you start to realize something. This isn't coming from one place. It's not a trend. And it's not one type of woman either. It's happening across different industries, different personalities, and for different reasons. And that's what makes this shift so interesting. Why is this shift happening? And why is it happening now? Why are we seeing more modest dressing? And I think there's a few reasons. My opinion. First, there's a fatigue from overexposure. We've had years of fast fashion, extreme trends, very revealing styles on the catwalks and the red carpet, and people are starting to want something different, right? Something calmer, something more intentional. I also think that elegance is becoming aspirational again. There's something about modest dressing that feels grounded, it's put together, it's timeless. And in our world that feels so fast, that kind of stability feels attractive. And thirdly, social media has changed everything. We're no longer just seeing one version of fashion. We are seeing different cultures from all over the world, different values. Modest fashion is no longer hidden. It's visible and it's evolving. So let me ask you this. Is this just a trend or is something bigger happening here? Personally, I don't think modest fashion is taking over in the sense that everything will suddenly become modest. But what I do think is the definition of style is expanding. The standard of elegance is shifting. And modesty is becoming part of that conversation. And that is a big deal. I'm really curious, have you noticed this shift? Do you feel like Hollywood is moving towards more fashion dressing? And have you checked out any of your favorite singers, actresses that may be changing their style? Let me know in the comments. I always love hearing your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to subscribe so you don't miss more videos like this. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.